Welcome to this training module on Husqvarna blowers. Husqvarna blowers are powerful tools for cleaning up leaves from lawns, roads, pathways, and other landscaped areas. Used properly, blowers can clear these areas very quickly and effectively. The following course will teach you the basic parts of a blower, as well as how to use a blower safely. It is very important that the operators read and understand the operator's manual before operating the blower. Let's get started. The blowers we're looking at today are professional backpack blowers. They are very powerful and are worn with a harness like a backpack. Before we go any further, let's take a closer look at this blower and its main components. Here we see the frame, harness, engine cover, fan shell, air intake screen, fan, air filter, choke control, starter handle, fuel tank, pad, vibration dampening system, elbow, flexible hose, control handle/operating handle, stop switch with cruise control, throttle trigger, control pipe, intermediate pipe, blower nozzle, like any other tool, blowers can be dangerous if you don't follow the instructions for safe operation or don't use them properly. Part of that is protecting your body with the correct personal protective equipment. When using a blower, you should wear approved gloves, hearing protection, eye protection, and non-slip boots. If there is a risk of dust inhalation, wear a dust mask as well. You should also wear long pants and a long-sleeve shirt to protect against debris that might get stirred up by the blower. Be sure that your clothes aren't too baggy. Don't wear loose clothing, scarves, or jewelry that might get pulled into the blower's moving parts, potentially causing serious injuries. Always be careful. Husqvarna's professional blowers are equipped with a two-stroke engine and must always be run using a mixture of gasoline and a two-stroke engine oil. For the very best results and engine life, use Husqvarna pre-mixed fuel. It's specifically formulated to provide optimal equipment performance, and it's conveniently ready to use and requires no mixing. If you choose to mix the appropriate Husqvarna oil with fuel, always mix 50-1 in a clean container intended for fuel. Start by adding half the amount of gasoline to be used. Then add the entire amount of the appropriate Husqvarna oil. Shake the fuel mixture thoroughly, and then add the remaining amount of gasoline. Don't mix more than 1 month's supply of fuel at a time. Never fuel the blower when it is running. Always shut it off first and let it cool before fueling. Also, don't fuel the machine indoors. Fumes from the fuel can be toxic, so make sure you add fuel in a well-ventilated area. Gas and oil are highly flammable, so keep hot objects and potential ignition sources, including cigarettes, away from the fuel. This includes the blower itself if it's been working. If you need to refuel during a job, shut the blower off and let it cool down before adding fuel. When opening the fuel cap, go slowly to gently release any excess pressure that may have built up in the fuel tank. Make sure you tighten the fuel cap carefully after filling up the tank. Again, keep the fuel away from hot items and open flames. If you spill fuel on the blower or the ground, wipe it up immediately with an approved oil soak product. After you're done, wait a few minutes to let any remaining fuel evaporate. If you spill fuel on your clothes, change them and make sure you clean any gas, oil, or mixed fuel off of your skin before operating the blower. When you're ready to fuel up the blower, First, clean the area around the fuel cap. Again, you don't want to knock dirt or debris into the fuel tank. It's important to leave room at the top of the tank. The blower will heat up as you use it, which will cause the fuel to expand. Leave room when you fill up to accommodate the expanding liquid. Finally, don't start the blower where you fueled it up. Move at least 10 feet away before starting the engine. You should never start a blower indoors or in any area that isn't well ventilated. Engine exhaust can contain carbon monoxide, a colorless, odorless, and potentially lethal gas. It's also possible to have sparks in the engine exhaust, so don't start the blower near anything flammable. Before you start the engine, take a quick look around to be sure there are no people or animals nearby. Your technique for starting the blower will depend on whether the engine is hot or cold. To start a cold engine, set the stop switch to the start position, about 1/3 open. Put the choke control in the choke position. Press the air purge repeatedly until you see the fuel filling the bulb. The bulb doesn't have to be completely full for starting. With the exception of one step, the process for starting a warm engine is exactly the same, but you don't need to put the choke control in the choke position. To start the blower, hold the body of the machine on the ground using your left hand, not your foot. Next, grip the starter handle and slowly pull out the cord with your right hand until you feel some resistance. Next, pull the cord quickly and powerfully until the engine starts. When the engine starts, put the choke control in the run position. If the blower doesn't start after 4 or 5 pulls, wait a few minutes and try again. You should never twist the starter cord around your hand. Also, never pull the starter cord all the way out, or let go of the handle when the cord is fully extended. Doing so can damage the blower. Bear in mind that air is released as soon as the engine is started, even when idling. When the engine fails to start after several attempts due to over-choking, open the choke and repeat pulling the rope. After the engine starts, you can set the required engine speed with the throttle control. To stop the engine, use the stop switch. Husqvarna's professional blowers are worn on your back like a backpack. The unit weighs over 20 pounds, so the harness allows you to carry them comfortably and safely. Always use the harness when working with one of the blowers. If you try to work without the harness, you can hurt yourself and someone else. The backpack should sit comfortably on your back. Make sure the hip belt and chest belt are buttoned properly to ensure the best working position. Adjust the straps so they are snug without being too tight, and so the weight is evenly distributed across your shoulders. Place the hip strap over the hip and not too far down on the stomach. Tighten the hip straps so that you feel the weight of the blower resting on your hip. Tighten and adjust the breast belt for the best working position. You should be able to move comfortably with the harness on. Make sure the hip belt and the chest belt are buttoned and correctly adjusted. If for some reason you need to release yourself from the harness quickly, open the harness straps and let the machine fall backwards. With the blower fueled up and the harness in a comfortable position, our operator is now ready to go to work. Before he begins, he does a quick scan of the worksite to make sure he won't encounter any rocks, broken glass, nails, flattened cans, or other potentially dangerous debris. You won't always see those things lurking beneath fallen leaves, so be sure to keep an eye out for them. The blower uses a very strong air current. It can blow debris very powerfully across open ground. Debris can also bounce off of walls or signs and hit you. Always be careful to reduce the potential to cause injury and damage. You can set the throttle position using the stop switch. This allows you to adjust the throttle level you want and keep it there without having to keep your finger on the throttle. Our operator begins working. He uses the lowest effective throttle setting. Lower throttle means more control when you're moving and piling material. It also means less noise, which is something you should always be aware of, especially if you're working around people's homes or in the morning. Using a low throttle will also kick up less dust. If material is stuck on the ground, use a rake or brush to loosen it. Watch as our operator works. Notice that he is in a balanced position and not reaching. He is also watching his footing as he goes. Just like rocks or glass, uneven ground might be hidden by leaves, so always proceed with caution. Never operate the blower on a ladder, scaffolding, or in high places. The operator holds the opening of the blower as close to the ground as possible, using the entire length of the blowpipe. He adjusts the throttle as necessary to push the material where he wants it to go. He takes the work in appropriate stages instead of trying to blow a huge amount of material all at once. This is a much more effective and efficient method of working. Remember that the wind can be your ally as you work. Try to work with the wind for best effect. Now that the job is done, our operator surveys the site to make sure he got everything. He also makes sure he hasn't made a mess on a walkway or adjacent property. Always clean up after you're finished, and pay special attention to gardens and landscape features. As an operator, you likely won't be responsible for fixing broken equipment, but there are still some routine maintenance procedures that you should be aware of when you work with a blower. As we said earlier, it's vital to use the right gasoline and engine oil in the right mix. Before you use the blower, make sure that the air filter is in good condition. Never use the leaf blower without an air filter, or with a damaged or deformed filter element. Unfiltered, dusty air can quickly damage the engine. To clean the air filter, loosen the fasteners holding the air filter cover and remove the filter. Do not tap the filter against a hard surface to knock debris loose. This can damage the filter. Instead, remove debris by hand or with compressed air. If the filter won't come clean or is excessively dirty, replace it. You should also check the air intake screen is in place, undamaged, and not blocked by leaves or rubbish. A clogged air intake reduces the machine's blowing capacity and increases the engine's working temperature, which can result in engine failure. If the intake is blocked, stop the engine and remove the object. Also, check the muffler regularly to make sure it's not damaged and is working properly. Professional blowers are powerful tools that must be used safely. If they're not used safely, they have the potential to cause serious injuries to you and those around you, as well as substantial property damage. Always be cautious and be careful when you use a blower. We talk about safety in terms of personal hazards, bystander hazards, and property hazards. Personal hazards. We define personal hazards as any hazard that can injure you personally. With blowers, the primary personal hazards come from flying debris, hot blower components, and trips and falls. Again, it's important to wear the proper personal protective equipment. Make sure you protect your eyes, ears, and limbs as you work. Also, use safe fuel handling practices. Do a site check before you start working. Watch for objects like rocks and glass that can be thrown up while operating the blower, or that can bounce off a wall or sign and hit you. Be mindful of the throttle level and use the minimum effective throttle to reduce the risk of debris hitting you. Also, pay attention to the ground you're covering. Watch for trip hazards and uneven ground and keep your footing secure. Don't work too fast and don't stretch with the blower, or you can lose your balance. Be extra cautious when blowing near ditches, drop-offs, and embankments, or on slopes. Always make sure your harness is secure and that belts are tightened. Be aware of low tree branches as well. Never use the blower in bad weather conditions, such as heavy fog, rain, or wind. Your vision and balance can be affected, and the ground can become very slippery if it's wet. Use your judgment or ask a supervisor if you have concerns about weather conditions where you're working. Remember, the engine and some parts of the blower will run hot. They can burn you if you're not careful. Wear gloves and be very careful not to touch hot components. Don't use a blower on a ladder, scaffolding, or roof. Husqvarna blowers are equipped with a vibration damping system that is designed to minimize vibration and make operation easier. Overexposure to vibration can lead to circulatory or nerve damage in people who have impaired circulation. Check the vibration damping units regularly for cracks or deformations, and pay attention if you feel like the blower is vibrating more than usual. Also, pay attention if you begin to experience numbness, loss of feeling, tingling, pricking, pain, loss of strength, or changes in skin color or condition. These symptoms normally appear in the fingers, hands, or wrists. The risk increases at low temperatures, so be extra aware in colder weather. Contact your doctor if you experience any symptoms. Bystander hazards. Bystander hazards are those that may injure the people around you, including coworkers, clients, and people walking by. Flying debris is as much a risk to bystanders as it is to you. Watch for people in or near your work area. Watch for animals too. Do not point the airstream at another person or animal. This is extremely dangerous and can cause serious injuries. If people walk by as you're using the blower, throttle down to the lowest setting or move to a different area until they are a safe distance away. Children may be interested in the machine and approach you. Keep children away from the blower and the work area. Even if the machine is turned off, it may still be hot and might burn children who want to play with it. Blowers can be noisy, which is another reason why you should use them at the lowest throttle possible. Respect people in the area by using a blower during normal business hours and as quietly as you can. Property hazards. Property hazards can cause damage to property. This might be gardens, landscape features, buildings, vehicles, or the blower itself. Property damage can be a major issue for your company. If you damage a client's property, it can cost your company a contract and possibly a very expensive repair. Be careful. Flying debris is a concern with property too. If the blower is not operated properly, debris can damage plants and fences, break windows, and scratch or dent vehicles or other property. Be cautious about using a blower in areas where property can be damaged. When in doubt, use a different tool. Using or maintaining the blower incorrectly can also damage the blower. Treat the blower gently. Use the right oil and fuel mix. And stay on top of routine maintenance to be sure you get the best results and long life out of the machine. Husqvarna commercial blowers can make clearing space much easier and more convenient. Like any machine, they present potential risks if used incorrectly. So learn to use them properly and safely. If you have any questions, consult your owner's manual or talk to your supervisor.